Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk on React frequently asked interview questions with detailed understanding of concepts that is most imperative. So let's take a deep dive into these questions. Our first question is, what is React? React is front-end and open source JavaScript library which is useful in developing user interfaces, especially for the application with a single page. So it is helpful in building complex and reusable user interface components of mobile and web application as it follows the component based approach. So let's talk about important features of React. First being it supports server side rendering. Second, it will make use of virtual DOM rather than real DOM that we are going to talk on shortly. Third, it follows unidirectional data binding or data flow. Fourth, it uses reusable or composable UI components for developing the view. And last, SEO friendly. That is, React allows developers to develop engaging user interfaces that can be easily navigated. One more thing, I have annotated all the important points to keep in mind while giving the interview. So, our next question is, what is the virtual DOM? How does React use the virtual DOM to render the UI? So, here you can see the picture, which I'm going to describe soon. And the definition is, virtual DOM is a concept where a virtual representation of the real DOM is kept inside the memory and is synced with the real DOM by a library such as React DOM. As you can see, React uses two virtual DOMs to render the user interface. One of them is used to store the current state of the object and the other to store the previous state of the object. Whenever the virtual DOM gets updated, React compares the two virtual DOMs and gets to know about which virtual DOM objects were updated. After knowing which object were updated, React renders only those objects inside the real DOM instead of rendering the complete DOM. This way, with the use of virtual DOM, React solves the problem of inefficient updating. Our third question is, what is USESTATE in React? The USESTATE is a built-in React hook. It allows you for having state variables in functional components. It should be used when the DOM has something that is dynamically manipulating or controlling. So here is a small example where the first parameter that represents the counter's current value and the second parameter set counter method will allow us to update the state of the counter. So I'm going to explain this code. We can make use of set counter method to update the state of count anywhere. So in this example, we are using set counter inside the send count function where various other things can be done. The idea of usage of hooks is that we can be able to keep our code more functional and avoid class-based component if they are not required. What are props in React? The props in React are the inputs to the component of React. They can be single valued or objects having a set of values that will be passed to a component. The main purpose of props: passing custom data to the React component, triggering state change. Let's take an example. Here we call root.render with the welcome name equals to Neha, this element. React calls welcome component with name equals to Neha as the prop. Our welcome component returns a H1 hello Neha because props.neha contains name contains Neha. Then React DOM efficiently updates the DOM to match H1 tag and hello Neha. So some more important tips. Always start component name with a capital letter because React React treats components starting with lower letters as DOM tag. Example, div tag represent an HTML div tag, but welcome as our function component with starting with a capital letter represents a component and requires welcome to be in scope. So the next very important question is what is prop drilling in React? So I will explain about prop drilling. Sometimes while developing React application, there is a need to pass data from component that is higher in the hierarchy to the component that is deeply nested. To pass data between such component, we pass props from source component to the component that requires it. And we need to keep passing the prop to the next component in the hierarchy till we reach the deeply nested component. So this is the drawing. You can see the data is here and we have to come through all the component to reach till here to the component which requires the data. So in the next diagram, you can see the context API, which is used for creating common data that is to be accessed by the component hierarchy without having to pass the props down to each level. So these components can have direct access to the data. This is the context API. Next question is what are error boundaries? So error boundaries provide a way of us to catch errors that occur in the render phase. The question arises in what places can an error boundary detect an error? So below you can see as on the screen render phase, inside a lifecycle method, inside the constructor. As shown in the left side of the screenshot of the code, we can see when the counter value is equals to 2, we throw an error inside the render method. When we are not using the error boundary, instead of seeing an error, we see a blank page. Since any error inside the render method leads to unmounting of the component. To display an error that occurs inside the render method, we use error boundaries. In the right side of the screen, we can see code implemented using error boundaries. As mentioned, error boundary is a component using one or both the following methods: static get derived state from error and component did catch. So get derived state from error function renders the fallback UI interface when the render method has an error. If has error is true, then it will render something went wrong instead of a blank page. Now talk about the second one. Component did catch. It logs the error information to an error tracking service. Now, with the error boundary, we can render the counter component where we want to catch the error in the following way. Here, you can see the counter component. You can put any other component where you want to catch the errors inside the error boundary. So that's it for the React interview questions part 1. Hope you liked it. I suggest to implement a small programs on all these topics. If you really like the video, please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you.